coming into our newsroom right now.
Gunfire erupts in New Britain and hits a child. Channel 3's Roger Suzanne on the First Alert desk with what we're learning. Roger.
Kara, Stephanie, we've learned that violence happened yesterday. Now, we questioned New Britain police about it this morning and just got this brand new information a short time ago. So investigators initially rushed out to the scene after multiple people called about a shooting near Konstin Place. Now, first responders arrived and found that someone had shot up a home there. And even worse, officers discovered that a child on the second floor had been hit by a bullet. Police have not identified the victim or even shared their age or gender, but we do know the child is recovering right now at Connecticut Children's. The extent of their injuries also not clear, but investigators do tell us that victim is stable. Now, police have not shared any information about whether they have identified any suspects. Of course, we'll keep you posted as we learn new information. Live at the First Alert desk, I'm Roger Suzanne in Channel 3 Eyewitness News. Mark, I'll send it over to you.